Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Monday, the 5th of May. Today is the day that in Canada we remember the missing and murdered Indigenous women and children, girls and boys and children. And it is a day in which you could go from community to community and see red dresses hanging in trees, symbols of the red. Some people you might see have painted on their faces a red handprint over their mouth to show the silence of those people who have those women and girls and boys who have been disappeared or who have been murdered. In Canada, we have done a great deal of work. We've done a great deal of work in acknowledging and remembering what has happened to our Indigenous peoples. Unfortunately, in the work that we have done, and I'll probably talk about that another time this week about the work that we have done, what has happened in some cases is that the work we have done has focused sort of on the residential schools, on the apologies, the calls to action through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and something completely embedded within that. Um, but that seems to grow even deeper and deeper, almost like a tumor in our society, is the hatred and the racism and the horrible things that have happened to our Indigenous siblings, that or things that we have allowed to happen to our Indigenous siblings. And over the years, the fact that our police services and our communities have seen, acknowledged or not acknowledged, the number of young Indigenous women who would disappear and no one cared about, or it seemed that no one cared about, is absolutely astounding and disgusting. And in our society in Canada, particularly where I live in Manitoba, but it's becoming more and more urgent. People are acknowledging this missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and boys, and acknowledging that we need to do something about it. There is a case in which we know that someone who was, I think we could say that he was a serial murderer, disposed of the bodies of some Indigenous women in landfills. And there was a call in Manitoba to the premiers, to the government of the province, to go into those landfills and find those girls, to bring closure for their families. And if I might be mistaken, I don't think I might be, but it took until our current premier, Wab Kinew, ordered that we look, and a couple of women have been found, and they have been, and because they have been found, their families have been able to have some kind of closure, not peace. I can only imagine that when it's your child, your mother, your sister who's missing, that there must be some part of you that hopes that no matter how wild outrageously the odds would be against it, that maybe somewhere out there she is alive and just waiting to come home, to have the knowledge come to you that your body has been found, would at one time end a dream, a hope, but would at the same time might also end a nightmare. And today, on the 5th of May, we acknowledge that. We, as a country, take time to remember, to wear red, to remember the apologies that we have made as settlers, as white people, to those peoples that we have hurt. And I think it's important to acknowledge our own biases, our own prejudices, and that we do the hard work of facing off with those. I remember a position I was putting my name in for, and we had to do some essays and things. And one of the questions was, explain how you are racist and how that impacts your life, something to that effect. Which at first I took a little bit of offense to, like saying, like, oh, I try not to be racist. And the fact is, we all have some racism within us. It doesn't matter who we are. There's going to be some group of people that we, for whatever reason, distance ourselves from or don't understand or something. And that doesn't mean that we hate or that we actively try to hurt them or anything. Just an acknowledgement that there are people with whom we don't feel as comfortable as people who look like us. And that really came home for me over the last couple of months, because I've been watching this program called Allegiance on CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And it is about following the life of a young constable come detective in a national police force based out of Surrey, BC. And she is of East Indian descent. And there's a great storyline that goes with it. I really encourage you to go on GEM or on CBC on your iPads or your however you do your TV stuff, and watch this program. There's 2 seasons of it, and they have scheduled a third season, and should be filming it hopefully soon. But I realized the first couple of episodes I watched, I had to think, because this woman she's of East Indian descent. Her father is a military. He's a member of parliament who wears a turban, and he gets wrapped up he's falsely accused of something of treason. And her brother is a gay young East Indian man who was in the military, involved in intelligence, and is now going to be get hired by the civilian arm of this policing force. And it shows the community of Surrey as being predominantly, like, really a lot of East Indian people, a lot of immigrants. And at first it could be a little bit because, like, they refer to their elders as auntie and uncle and things like that. And after the first couple of episodes, it was like I was struggling to figure out, okay, what's the relationship here? Okay, that's not a relationship the way I'm thinking of it. It's a term of respect for an elder. And then how the people thought, and the way that they live their lives. And it does not present East Indian people in some kind of high and dry, pie in the sky society. I mean, in this one, there's 2 warring gangs that are both of East Indian descent. Like, it's absolutely normal community, and all of the community dynamics. The difference is that most of them are Sikh or Sikh. I'm not sure how I pronounce it, but this is how they worship. This is the way they go about it, and they even bring that into the religion into a little tiny bit, and they deal with all the big topics, and including murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. And it's a powerful, powerful thing. And I realized after a couple of weeks of episodes, I'd stopped thinking in terms of the characters, the main character and her family being East Indian. And they were just the characters. They were just the people they were playing. And I felt a connection with them. And I realized once we become familiar with people, once we become familiar with them, we don't do those barrier things, those racist things. Now, I don't think I was being racist. It was being more like race aware. I was more alert to, that's different than me. That's different than me. That sounds different. That's a different, I'm wondering. But as time went on and I became more aware of the characters, and I know it's just fiction, but as I came, they live in the neighborhood like I would live in, and all of these things. They drive cars just like we do, like I do. Once I realized that they're just like me, and I could fit into that community just as well, or maybe I wouldn't because I didn't look like them and I would be the minority. Okay, how do I deal with that? But familiarizing myself with a different demographic, helped me to be more aware of what I wasn't aware of, if that makes sense. I'm paying attention to things in a different way, and that's a good thing. And I think that our society needs to do that because, well, I don't think I was carrying any harsh judgments or being racist in the typical sense of the word about people of East Indian descent. Watching this program helped me realize how little I knew about them and how few people I know to be interacting with. And this program helped me to just get over it. Part of the thing about the Red Dress Day and the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and boys is that in our society with our Indigenous peoples, we have way too much hatred left. We have way too much deep-seated sense of, if they be quiet, then we'll ignore them. No. The mother of an Indigenous girl who disappears, who goes out on Friday night with her friends and never comes home, she has as much right to be on the front page of the newspaper or on the 11 o'clock news at night with a picture of her daughter held up saying, "Have you seen her?" as any white woman does, as any white family does. And the fact that we would still, in this day and age in 2025, have to fight for the fact that we need to be searching as hard for these young women as we would for any other person's child is disgusting. It's not, it just should not matter. And it should not matter if, they were a drug addict or if they were a runaway or anything like that. That is a person's child. That is a person's mother, a person's spouse, a person's sister, a person's friend. They are a person. And when we stop thinking in terms of skin color or which side of the tracks or whether or not they have bad habits or what our grandparents told us about those people, whoever they may be, our society will become much better than it is. So on this day, when we take time to remember, I invite you to revisit your own racisms. Think about those places where you don't like to go, where you realize you hesitate for a second. Because it isn't until we acknowledge where we hesitate for a second that we'll be able to get to the point where we never hesitate at all. And I pray this day for all of the people who are still searching for their daughters, for their spouses, for their children, for their mothers who have just disappeared. I pray for those women, wherever they may be, that their souls may rest with Christ, or if they are still alive, that they might find a way out of whatever they're in, whoever has taken them, whatever lifestyle has pulled them away. Because it's too easy for our society to consider that Indigenous people to be throwaway human beings, if they're considered human beings at all. And we need to recognize them as brothers and sisters in Christ, as children of Creator, equal to every other child of Creator. So as you go about your day, if you see in Manitoba a license plate that has the red hand print on it, or if you see someone walking down the street with the red handprint across their mouth, or wearing red, I encourage you to wear red today. I will wear red on Monday. I am recording this on Friday, so I will wear red on Monday. I pray that you will think about that, and think the next time you see on Facebook a missing persons page, or when you're walking down the street and see a poster on the light post. Look at the picture. Memorize the face. Because you never know when you might be the person who can save another's life, or who can bring some peace at last to a family. May God protect all those beautiful souls. And may God bring healing to the souls of those who love them. I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel. God bless.